Bonjour classe, nous allons tenter de finir cette unité. Nous sommes dans unité 7, leçon 24 et voilà les objectifs pour ce chapitre. I can narrate past events using the passé composé. I can identify and create sentences in the passé composé with être as an auxiliary verb. I can identify and correctly conjugate être. I can identify and create sentences in the passé composé with aller, arriver, rentrer, rester, et venir in the past participle. So just to review the meaning of the passé composé. So this is one of the past tenses in French. It describes what happened. It's something that is completed at the moment of speaking. It's something that's done and dusted, and it could be completed moments ago, but it's done and over, or it could be years in the past. And that's why that's why I've used a timeline here as an example. You really want to have in your head when you're using the passé composé that it is something that is finished. So we talked about the formula, the formule pour le passé composé. We have subject plus the auxiliary verb plus the past participle. And in chapter 22, leçon 22, on a beaucoup travaillé avec les verbes réguliers, les verbes ER, et puis nous avons tenté d'établir les formes et les motifs avec les verbes IR et RE. So as you can see here, I've included the regular verbs, those ER verbs that you drop the ER and it goes to E with an accent. And then the IR verbs like choisir, you drop the IR and it goes to I. And then the RE verbs, you drop the RE and it goes to U. We always have a subject. We always have an auxiliary verb. The auxiliary verb is required. That's why you really want to think about, too, the name of this past tense, the passé composé. It is composed of all of these parts, which are important in French and can't be left out. If, as we're in still the novice levels approaching intermediate, if you were to leave them out, if your context is clear, you would be understood. And if the person you're speaking to wants to understand you, you will be understood. But as you're getting into intermediate levels in terms of creating language as well as interpreting it, it's really important that you start noticing these little details because this is what's going to make you a better French speaker. All right. In leçon 23, nous avons commencé à regarder quelques verbes irréguliers. Okay, so we started talking about some irregular verbs in the past participle because no French lesson would be complete if we didn't throw in something a little bit confusing and a little bit more difficult. So we have, again, all of the subject pronouns, avoir, you're like getting avoir in your head. And then you're looking at these irregular ones. Now, these are ones you're just going to have to commit to memory. And as I said, because they are so common, you will just start to recognize them and then pretty soon say them. And just like when you were a little one learning English, you'll just start to do it. So, j'ai été, okay, I was. J'ai eu, I had. J'ai fait, I did, I made. J'ai mis, I put. Et j'ai vu, I saw. All right. So this is kind of the quickie version of le passé composé. This is not the last time you'll see it. When you continue with me, we'll keep doing passé composé over and over because another benchmark of increasing your proficiency is to be able to go between different time periods, between the present and the past, for example. So we're going to keep using this. All right. So if you may recall at the beginning of this, whole journey into the past tense, I had the idea that, wait, auxiliary verb, you can have avoir or you can have être. And I just kind of left that there hanging and didn't really talk about it too much. So, oui, pour être compliqué, tu peux utiliser soit avoir, soit être, okay? There are some rules as to when you can use one or the other. Um, I put Homer here because this is one of this can be kind of a confusing concept for the passé composé, which has a tendency to cause paralysis and fear in French students. And I would say, don't let it. It comes with time. You get the feeling for it, but there are some rules that you can have, like to kind of fall back on to help you better understand why you use être or avoir, or when you're memorizing it or when you see it, just to kind of get a grip on it. We as adult learners, generally, when you learn a second language as an older learner, you need to understand the why, and rather than just memorizing a list to get it in your head. So, l'auxiliaire, avoir ou être. Les caractéristiques du passé composé avec être. Alors, un caractéristique est que le verbe exprime l'émotion ou le mouvement. Il y a 17 verbes, 17, c'est tout, qui prennent le verbe être dans le passé composé. Et tous ces verbes peuvent être définis, peuvent être décrits par l'idée qu'ils expriment le mouvement. Par exemple, je suis allé. Alors, le verbe, c'est aller, okay? So, we have one example here, je suis allé, I went. So that is a verb that expresses motion or movement. It's one of the 17 verbs. Aller is one of 17 verbs that takes être in the passé composé. Un autre, est-ce que tu es parti tôt ce matin? Did you leave early this morning? Okay, partir, to leave. So that's another one that would take être in the passé composé. N'aie pas peur, hein? Il y a seulement 17. If you're looking at it this way, don't be afraid. There's only 17 verbs that you need to memorize or identify as taking être in the passé composé that follow that idea of, okay, these are related to motion or movement. Other verbs that take le passé composé, qui prennent être avec le passé composé, sont les verbes pronominaux. Alors, si c'est un verbe pronominal, c'est toujours avec être. I'm throwing this out there to just give you all the information now. This is not something you need to worry about per se, but for those of you that are like knowing everything and kind of want to be prepped for future study of French, any verb that's considered a reflexive verb is going to take être in the passé composé. So I've put some examples here. Je me suis amusée beaucoup à la fête ce week-end. I had fun. I had a lot of fun at the party this weekend. Je me suis amusée. Les enfants se sont lavé les mains avant le déjeuner. The children washed their hands before lunch. L'assassin s'est appelé Carlos le chacal. The assassin was called Carlos the jackal. So any verb that the action is reflected back on itself. See how here it has these? Those will also take être in the passé composé, and we will talk about that more in future chapters. But just to give you all the information, and just really to tell you there's not very many, and the cases are either easily memorizable or you can adjust on the fly because you know what kind of verb it is.